So, Rabbi, do you hear from people on the East Coast?
Oh yeah, I talk to my mom every day.
So,
She's
how is everybody doing? You have anybody who's ill?
no,
Do you know?
thank God, not in my immediate family. I have two brothers, and they both have multiple children and grandchildren, and right now everybody's healthy. But what I hear from rabbinic colleagues is that they are having a completely different experience than we in Arizona are having in terms of just numerous funerals. Last week, somebody had the president of their congregation die. People are doing 2 or 3 funerals a day. So a lot of challenge.
I'm sorry. Would you say that again? Bill just called to see how I'm doing. So,
Oh, thanks. Well, tell him we said hi and we miss him. I was just saying that my back east colleagues are having multiple funerals a day. The president of their congregation died. So I think they're having a much more intense experience than we are.
I'm afraid that people are getting a little cavalier here because we don't have a lot of firsthand experience, and I'm just concerned we haven't hit our peak yet, and that there are some people who are not being very careful. For example, my neighbor was having a washer and dryer delivered, and he was out in the street, 3 feet away from the delivery people, no masks. And I'm concerned that there are a lot of that going on here. And the demonstrators down at the Capitol.
Morning, Boker Tov, Shabbat Shalom. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm afraid we're going to start seeing some of the same things before long if this keeps up.
Yeah. I see Lori joining us, Joe and Carol. Hi, Sandy. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Move over there.
And Alan, great. So I think we will formally jump in here. As usual, I'd like to start with a relatively brief check-in if anyone has anything they want to share. And then we're going to move into the book itself. And we're on page 11, entering the section on mindfulness written by Sylvia Boorstein, who was what we call a Jubu, a Jewish Buddhist, and a pioneer in mindfulness and meditation in the Jewish community. And we have a somewhat of a subject matter expert with us, or expert among ourselves, Joel Sherman, who's going to share a little bit about mindfulness. But I'll start at the top of my screen with Marilyn. Marilyn, how are you and Joel doing? What's going on?
We're doing fine. Doing our walks. We walked on Central Avenue on the bridle path, which was very shady. I don't know how much longer we can do that because it's getting really warm out.
Right.
We have to get up earlier.
Yeah, that Joel and I were just discussing that. If it was up to Ron, he would like to go mountain biking and, watch the sunrise. And I don't care. I'd rather go at 11 a.m. and be hot. So we'll see how that works out. I'll report back. But I think compromise, we'll end up compromising, which is, a good foundation for a successful marriage.
There you go.
Yeah. Are you all aware that that's why the mezuzah is placed on our homes on an angle? Because there were two different rabbis. One said it should be vertical and one said it should be horizontal, and they compromised. And that's why your mezuzah is angled. So you remember every time you go in and out of your house that compromise is the foundation of Shalom Bayit.
I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know either. Andy.
All right, Joel, tell us what's doing with you and Cheryl.
We're doing great. I did my first real sojourn into a store with a mask and gloves on, and went to Natural Grocers, by the way, which is a phenomenal store, which we don't frequent very often, but I can tell you they have the best produce we've seen anywhere.
Ron has raved about that place too. I've never been.
Outside of farmers markets. There's one at the northwest corner of Thunderbird and Scottsdale Road. And anyway, you know, it was a little strange wearing a mask, and but everybody in that store appears to be into health, and almost everybody were wearing gloves and masks, and I don't think there were ever more than 10 people in the store. So it was a really comfortable experience for us. It was the best shopping experience Cheryl said she's actually had since this whole thing. So anyway, everything, we're into a lot of healthy stuff. I work out every day, and we're meditating probably every other day. We're doing Qigong every other day. We're doing yoga every other day. And so we're doing a lot of really healthy stuff, reading and not watching much television at all, trying to stay away from, purposely trying to stay away from too much news.
Yeah, sounds good.
So what was the name of that store?
Natural Grocers.
Natural Grocers.
I'll put it in the chat here.
Where are they?
They're a chain out of Colorado. I think there's 3 of them in the Valley, and frankly, the only one I know is the one at Scottsdale and Thunderbird.
Joel, what time did you go?
We went about 1:30, which, by the way, I had a manager at the Costco at Paradise Valley tell me about 4 weeks ago. I called right after they did one of their first senior things, and we didn't make it. And I said, how was it? And she said there were 300 people in line an hour before we opened. And she said, let me just tell you what my observation is, that the best time to come to our store is 1 and 2:30. For some reason, it just falls off then and then picks up again. And we have kind of used that for a lot of stores, and we're really finding that there's not a crowd in stores at that hour.
That's a good tip. So Richard and Jane, were you the ones who recommended Mozart in the Jungle to us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Ron and I have been watching it. Thank you for the recommendation, and we're really enjoying it.
Isn't it lovely?
And you're right, you do get to experience, you know, some very beautiful music along the way of the plot moving along. So, yeah.
Yeah, it gets better and better.
Oh, does it? Oh, that's encouraging too.
Yeah.
Which station is that?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
Mozart in the Jungle takes place in New York.
And Rikers Island.
And Rikers Island also.
So how are the 2 of you doing otherwise?
Oh, we're doing okay. I have had a couple bad, depressing days, but I'm all right. This getting together is picking me up.
Yeah, that's good. What else are you doing to overcome the depression?
I don't know. Let's see. I'd have to. Well, I got together with a friend yesterday afternoon, so that was nice. She came over. One of my neighbors came over. I haven't seen too many people. So
Are you getting outdoors?
no, and that's what I have to do.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that might lift your spirits a little bit, just going for a walk.
I'm used to being outdoors. I want to swim too.
Yeah, I was saying I'm going to be sad if the pools don't get opened here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So we're live streaming services tonight as well. Hopefully you can.
Well, that's good.
You can tune into that, and Joe and Carol are hosting a virtual nosh, so they can send you that link if you want to join in at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So you can do the nosh and services, and that'll give you a little more interactive opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Richard, anything to add?
Getting a bit down on myself.
Yeah.
I've with so much free time, I've done all
Talk to
the
you.
I've done all the easy stuff to do. The only stuff that's left is the stuff that I really don't like to do, like stretch, clean up my den, and
I'm going to do that. It's called pitching out.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, I remember what an old therapist of mine said something like that. I've got to start doing things more lovingly.
More what?
More lovingly.
More lovingly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got to be more lovingly to myself.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think, you know, we're all struggling in our own ways, and, you know, being a little kind and compassionate to ourselves is in order.
Thank you.
Ivy, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm walking and doing my yoga, and I'm fine.
It's good. I also want to mention we have a wonderful bereavement group that meets twice a month, and the facilitator of that group, who is a licensed marriage and family counselor, has offered to do probably once a week kind of just drop in general support group. So I'm looking to maybe get that up and running as soon as this coming Thursday, April 30th. We'll let everyone know, but you know, that would be another opportunity for people to connect and get some more support. So you can stand by for that.
What time are you think you're going to do that on Thursday?
Well, I'm looking at doing it maybe 3:30 to 5 p.m. So that it doesn't conflict with the book group if people want to do both.
There's also a mindfulness sit that's sponsored by Hospice of the Valley. It used to be at the Art Museum, but now they're doing that on Zoom Thursdays if people are interested, from noon to 12 to 12:30
So that's every week?
every week, and it's at go to the Hospice of the Valley website for that.
I'll put this up in the chat if people want to make a note.
And they also have a 1 hour on Saturday morning, but you guys are probably, I don't know if everybody's at services or what they're doing. At 9:30 on Saturday morning also.
Great. Thanks. It's good to share these resources. And Marie, you said Bill is still working. You're home. You doing okay at home?
No, I can relate to what Jane is saying about being depressed. That's hard.
It's starting to get to people.
Yeah.
It is. And the, the mindfulness and meditation is helpful, but doesn't conquer it by any means.
All right. Well, we'll hear more about that in just a few minutes. Debbie Rubin.
Hi, I'm doing okay, doing well, just same old stuff, different day. You mentioned Harriet possibly opening up a group. She is fabulous. I'm part of the grief support group, and she's great to bounce things off, and she's a great resource person. So I encourage people to join that.
All right. Thanks.
But Debbie,
And the other thing, I think it was Joel mentioned masks early on, going out with a mask. And I found, if you haven't found masks, orthomattress.com, and I'll put it in the chat. They offer free masks to at-risk individuals, which I believe includes seniors. But you pay shipping of I believe it's $4.95. So if anybody is, I made my own mask with old t-shirts, but if you're looking for them, I'll put it in the chat.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So Craig, I know Craig is a big proponent of looking for online exercise. So somebody mentioned, Richard mentioned that you're having trouble getting motivated about stretching. So Craig may be able to recommend some resources for that.
Good.
just doing it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet. I knew if the JCC is offering a bunch of programs online, and I haven't looked at those yet, so I haven't really ramped up my online exercise yet. I've been busy organizing. I've been tackling the office. I got my closet reorganized, so.
So can you give us testimony about how great it feels to have that done? Maybe that will encourage Richard.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't cringe when I look at my closet anymore and my office. I've got a big stock of papers now I have to go through, but the tops of the desk and the file cabinets, I went through my files and pulled out all the old stuff. So I'm very pleased. It gives me a lot of energy, even though it takes a lot of energy. So it's really good.
All right.
I encourage it.
Lori, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm taking hour-long walks now in the evening, and I like it in the evening because it just fits right before dinner and gives me a good start to my evening. And I'm live on the green belt. I've been taking them in the neighborhood north of me, but yesterday it got hot, so I'm on the green belt, close to the houses where the houses shield you, so there's a little bit of shade. And just doing pretty good.
All right, good to hear. Carol and Joe, did you purposely coordinate your shirts, or did that just happen?
No, I was dressed first. And then Joe, then I came back into the bathroom. He had gotten out of the shower and he was getting dressed, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm wearing a red shirt."
Just happens to go with the blue shorts that I've got on. So
Well,
Frank had the red shirt on.
Great, you'll be all
Andy
set
had the red shirt on.
for the Nosh later.
yeah.
I
By
guess
the way, if anybody wants to join the Nosh, in the chat box, I threw in my email, although I mistyped it. It's supposed to be cox.net. There's 2 N's in net, but if you just drop me an email, there's only 1 N in net in the actual address. If you just send me an email, I'll be happy to add you to the list for later.
Could you repeat it right now? I'd like to write it down.
It's Joe Newman, all one word, JOENEWMAN @cox.net.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and thanks for keeping that going for us. What else is going on in your guys' world?
Had a new RO system put in yesterday. Been out walking a bit on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Doing minimal shopping when necessary.
He's starving me. He's not letting me eat.
But other than that, no, it's been good. We started watching the new Bosch series on Amazon Prime. A big fan of Michael Connelly and Harry Bosch. So this actually, I've already read the book that this came from, called The Overlook. But it's always interesting to see them and how they adapt them online. So that's good. Reading, getting good at getting older as we go on here.
We are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna make challahs this afternoon for Shabbos, and Joe's been doing a lot of walking. I've been doing exercises in the house. There's a lot of stuff on the internet besides silver sneakers. I don't know what you got it on, what you found it on.
It's YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube. And they have them all different times of the day, and they keep you
on
exercising.
YouTube, you can watch them whenever you want.
Right. I was just going to say that. You can exercise all day long if you want. But I found it enjoyable because they have a big variety. So you don't have to keep doing the same thing.
Nice.
Otherwise, everything's fine. My mother's doing fine when she's lucid. She is now 200 years old. And my brother called me yesterday to tell me that he's 185. My brother's fine. He doesn't have dementia.
You have good longevity in your family. That's nice.
I asked my brother how he could be 185 when my mother's 200. But he was feeling good. He was in one of his good moods. He's a very private person, but he's a sweetheart. I love him. Otherwise, everybody's fine. My kids are doing well. Everybody's good. Oh, Joe set up, if any of you are thinking, you're talking about missing people. Joe just set up a globe with each side of the family. What did I say?
A globe. I don't know
Yeah,
what that is.
well,
No, we set up a Zoom meeting.
a Zoom meeting, I'm sorry.
It's a family circle meeting for this coming Sunday afternoon. So that what I've got is a number of my cousins from around the country getting together for a Zoom meeting, just to check in and see how things are going.
We haven't seen them in I don't know how many years, and since they keep having reunions in places that cost really a lot of money to get to, so Joe came up with this idea, and he got together with 2 other cousins, and everybody's so excited to see everybody tomorrow. No, Sunday we're doing
Sunday.
it. Sunday.
That'll be great.
Something if you people are interested in getting in touch with your families, lift you up a little bit. We've also been having a happy hour with 3 other couples. We've been doing that once a week. So it's keeping us going. We all have our moments, but on the whole, no, I think we're doing very well.
Yeah, and we've set up kind of a house rule here that unless there's something specific on TV,
Right.
we don't put the TV on before 5 o'clock. So we've been keeping up, doing other things besides watching TV.
I'm doing a lot of reading, which is good because I've gotten really very lazy. So that's the only good thing I can think of about this virus, is it got me back to reading a lot.
That's great.
All right, enough of us.
Back.
So Sandy, I know, Sandy Kane, I know you're a big fan of the Silver Sneakers too.
Yes, they have all kinds of classes, and you don't have to be a member. You can get onto their Facebook page 3 times a week at 9:30 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you'd be surprised how you feel kind of blah, and then all of a sudden you do that. It's like amazing. It's like a miracle. So I certainly recommend that. And you don't have to be very physically fit. You can do it in a chair. And so I think it's for everybody. So I recommend that.
Well, I think that Dr. Moak will tell you that there's a physical biochemical release of endorphins that is behind that good feeling of uplift you're describing. That it's not just psychological, it's physical.
Absolutely. That's why I used to go to the gym, because it just, for mental health more than physical health, maybe both, really. So I definitely recommend that for everybody.
What's that address?
Well, get onto facebook.com and go and search for Silver Sneakers.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're a member of Silver Sneakers anyway. Some insurance companies pay for people on Medicare to use it. And they have a website too if you're a member, and they have like tons of classes that you could attend any time of the day.
Thank you.
Commercial, an infomercial for them, but
there you go. And how is David doing?
David is doing fine. He's been doing a lot of gardening this week. That's what he's doing now, and I think that's really good for him. And he's been doing some artwork, and the 2 of us have had some workers here. We did our tile in the swimming pool, and now we're all set for the season and back, so we're ready. And some other things. We've done some good things too, like Joe and Carol. We got together with our family on the internet to play a game called Jackbox TV. My daughter-in-law has that, and she set it up. And so we had people from 3 parts of the country playing this game on Wednesday night. It was a lot of fun. And, and the Zoom, family meetings are great. One thing I just wanted to mention that I thought was really heartwarming this week, David had harvested a bunch of his rosemary, and it was way too much. I didn't know what to do with it all. So I texted my neighbor next door, and I said, would you like some rosemary? And she wanted some, so I brought it to her door and left it there. And then she texted me back. She was thrilled, and she said, by the way, I made some homemade masks. Would you like some? And then she brought them over to me. And I just think it's, it's kind of a nice way to connect with people, and we're all in this together. So I think that was a good feeling.
Very sweet. I got a text message yesterday saying I left something outside your front door. And I opened the front door, and there were 3 little vinca plants with a note from a friend saying, "This is how I spread love."
Nice.
All right, Dr. Molk is walking away. We'll check in with you when you get back. And Mr. Blake. Uh-oh. Can't hear you, Frank.
Oh, sorry. No, we're fine again.
Frank, you're muted.
He's not muted. We just can't hear him. Oh,
It
yeah.
is muted.
Oh, okay.
The lower left-hand side on my computer. Good.
Frank, we're not hearing you, so we're gonna just check in with Sherry here for a second, and let's see if we can figure out what's going on with your
You
sound.
should be able to unmute him, Rabbi.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, I should, but unmute. No.
It might be his cell phone or something.
Yeah, I think he's got himself muted there. Sherry, why don't you tell us how things are? And you're in Queen Creek, yeah?
Yeah, Tempe.
Oh, Tempe. I always get that confused.
That's fine. Everything's kind of good. Like everybody else, it's hard, right, to be alone. When you know, it's just hard, right? And in a no-touch world right now. But I have 3 friends who are kind of in the same position, so we've gone back to playing pickleball in the cul-de-sac where one of them lives. So it's the 4 of us, nobody else, and that's been fabulous. It just adds that people connection back in again, which is so delightful. Yeah, and then short of that, my daughter sent me a box of vegetables because, you know, all the restaurateurs aren't open anymore. And so you still have growers and nothing to do with their vegetables. So these were from some amazing farmer in, I think that they're south of LA. And I think they're down by San Diego. And it came with these 3 kinds of tomatoes. Each one was different. None of them looked like a tomato. One looked like little watermelons. All kinds of fabulous lettuces, nothing bitter, everything delightful, things you've never seen before. Some, I think it's New Zealand spinach. I mean, all these things you've never heard before, and they've been delightful. And you can make them into spaghetti, or you can use them in a salad, or you can do an omelet with them. So anyway, so that's been really fun. And then we share our recipes back and forth. So that's been, you know, but it is hard. How do you keep up relationships while you're down like this?
Well, like Carol and Joe, we had our first virtual happy hour earlier this week, and it was surprisingly fun and enjoyable.
Good idea.
Yeah.
How do you do a family Zoom?
So somebody signs onto Zoom and creates a meeting. And then just like we do with these events, you send that link to the entire family, and whoever is able and available at that time can sign in and do just like we're doing now.
Right.
But it's all the family gathering. We've done 2 of them with the extended family, and they've been really fun.
If you go to YouTube and search on Zoom for beginners, there are several videos out there that will help you, walk you through signing up for your own account, either using your Facebook ID or Google ID for free. And you can have, it used to be only 4 people, but now I think you can get up to 100 on a free account for 40 minutes. So, you know, that's the best advice I can give you if you're new to the technology, is to go to YouTube and do a search on how to use it.
Great.
Joe, can you try to help Frank figure out why his sound is not working?
Frank, are you back yet? No, I don't know. I don't have any idea why his sound is.
He's not muted.
Try turning up the volume on whatever device you're using. Have you got it turned down?
Looks like
for some, the only thing I can think of. Because it doesn't look like he's muted at this point, but we cannot hear you, Frank.
He looks like he's on a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Alan Molk, I'm glad you're able to join us. What's the report from the front line?
I actually haven't been working that much, but the last couple of times I worked, things are surprisingly slow. Phoenix clearly has not become an epicenter. It doesn't look like it ever will be an epicenter. And, you know, the golf courses are opened. I'm going to be playing with your lovely husband and Joe Newman on Monday and my son Asher. Look forward to that. What I've been doing that I've really relished recently is I've looked at this as an opportunity to nourish my neshama, to nourish my Jewish soul a little bit as well. And I invite everyone to do it in one shape, form, or another. It just feels nice. It feels good. It lifts your spirit, whether it's reading the Phoenix Jewish News, whether it's reading this magazine called Moment or Forward, which are wonderful, have all kinds of wonderful articles on that connects us to our roots, our Judaism. And the other night, I had a most wonderful evening with my son watching Fiddler on the Roof. It was about, I think, the 11th or 12th time I've seen it, but it was my son's first time. And we did some amazing bonding. My son has been a little bit turned off by religion over the last couple of years, but he definitely seems to be making a comeback. And I invited him to watch this movie with me, and he agreed, so we could look at our history of our forefathers. And he loved it. He did it to honor me. It was really special. And, you know, we stopped frequently because of course you could pause it on Netflix, and we discussed various components of the movie, you know, from the part where Tevye says, on the one hand, on the other hand, and there is no other hand. And the dream that he had so that Laser Wolf, the butcher, wouldn't marry his first daughter. And and then, of course, the very sad scene of where he says goodbye to his third daughter at the train station, where she sings a song called Far From the Home I Love. So I think it's really delightful to find my own ways of reconnecting to my Judaism, to my Yiddishkeit. I invite you guys to do the same. You might get some joy out of it as well, be it Zionism, be it spirituality, be it history, whatever. And the other thing I invite everyone to do that's really helped keep me afloat is humor. You've got to laugh. Laughter is really important. Whatever it takes, watch your favorite movie, watch Young Frankenstein, watch City Slickers, watch any movies that made you laugh in the past, or and do that at a time when you're feeling low. Turn on a funny movie. It's really therapeutic. So that's my 2 cents.
That's wonderful. And Joel is also kind of the master of jokes. So Joel, we got 3 more folks to check in with, and then I'm going to challenge you to share one of the best of the best of what you came up with this week.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Tuesday night, last Tuesday and this coming Tuesday, Rabbi Marnie has that Israeli music on Zoom. And it was with Ross Woolman, Cantor Ross, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Very nice. I really enjoyed that. And
They're doing a mini class on Israeli music and poetry.
Right.
Sandy Copel, how are things in the city?
Okay, I had you down for the wrong time. I had you down for 30. I had to wait till I got dressed to come to school because
we appreciate that, even though we can barely see you with your backlit and you're hiding down there.
All right. Is that better?
Well, the backlight is, you're kind of silhouetted.
Well, maybe I better turn the other way. Anyway, things in New York are pretty much the same.
That's much better. That purple is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Much better. we seem to be doing well in New York. We still have our 7 o'clock applause every night.
Oh,
And,
wonderful.
yeah, it's amazing. You go out I have a balcony here, a little terrace on my balcony, and I go out and it's a racket of clapping and noise, and people are
that's so touching.
heads out of the windows and stuff like that. I'm still walking, and I'm getting ready to do another food order. The first one was successful, mostly. Can't get everything you want, but that's life today. You have to make do with what you have.
Right.
Still walking. Although not today, it's raining.
Myra, is there a reason you're not on a video?
Yes.
All right, well, we miss seeing you. Do you want, oh, there you are. You look so pretty too with that flower top.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to first say what happened yesterday. I have been trying to get New York bagels and Bialys, and I couldn't get them. And so I happened to mention it to my landscaper's wife. And she said, I'll go shopping for you. And I said, terrific. That's marvelous. And she went and she bought them for me. And she came here and she's wiping her kids. She brought her 2 children and she's wiping everybody down. And she's very careful about everything, thank God. And I haven't seen these children for ages. I knew her since before she was pregnant. And here's the 11-year-old girl, an 8-year-old boy comes in with Jessica with a dozen bagels from New York Bagels and Bialys.
Oh.
You know, it does the neshama good, speaking of what Ellen said. And she thinks way back we're related. She thinks I'm her Jewish grandmother. So I have a different attitude than a lot of people. I think this is God sent. I believe that God has been warning us to not destroy the earth, to listen to these green people and stuff like that. And when, like in Noah's time, he promised Noah not to destroy the earth again, not to have a flood again. But he's doing what he or she, the Lord is doing whatever God can do. But we have the technology. God also gave us the technology for me to see all you beautiful people. And we're all related. All, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Korean. We are all related. And I would love to help anybody who's depressed, but I'm not talented enough to do it. On the other hand, I am still in litigation with my stepdaughter since my husband died July 12, 2012.
Oh, goodness.
Well, like Jessica said, oh, I feel so, well, yes, time flies when you get to my age. And time is flying, and I persevere. It's a Jewish thing, I think, to persevere. And I've gone through breast cancer. I thought that was a gift from God. People thought I was crazy. And I think this is a gift from God. Now, crazy is you can ask me questions and you could chat with me or whatever. Um, and you have my email and whatever. I'd love to talk to you and help you if you are depressed.
Thank you so much, Myra. That's so kind. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joel Sherman. So as I said, we have this chapter on mindfulness. Just to review, we talked a little bit about Musar and focusing specifically on gratitude, which is always important, and especially at this time, as my mom said, you can't have everything you want, but you have to appreciate what you do have. And so Joel, if you want to take us a few minutes, tell us a good joke and tell us about mindfulness.
Rabbi, before Joel gets there, just quickly, I just got a reminder. Mark Gottlieb sent out something last week that I thought I'd share here. If you
great.
If you go to YouTube and go to the Andrew Lloyd Webber page, he is sharing one of his musicals every month. I'm sorry, every week. The full stage production. Last week it was Phantom of the Opera. This week it's the full that called Love Never Dies. But it's on from 7 p.m. British Standard Time, which is 11 a.m. our time, for 48 hours. So you can watch it anytime between now and Sunday morning. And that's the Andrew Lloyd. Go to YouTube and search on Andrew Lloyd Webber. You'll be able to get it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I spent 47 years, and it's still counting. I'm actually renewing my real estate broker's license during this period of time, taking my renewal hours. But the reality is, over the last few weeks, I have gained the moniker of being the Joker broker. So I have probably a circle of about 50 people that, as a broker, I'm not creating any of this material, I'm simply passing it on. And so if anybody is interested, I try to weed the things that are politically sensitive, to go to only places that I think they may be accepted and not where it might not be. But there's a lot of good stuff out there, and my email is available, obviously, on this site for these meetings. But there's a lot of cute stuff out there. One of them that tickled my fancy is a guy sitting across from a cat holding a handful of a hand of cards, and saying quarantine's going well, but I'm convinced that the cat is cheating. And so there's a lot of
typical cat
imaginative stuff out there right now. My own journey into mindfulness really started about 8 or 9 years ago. As some of you know, I'm a gym rat, and I'm an everyday really hard exerciser, and lifting a lot, but I also do 50 minutes to an hour of strenuous cardio most every day of the week. Wow. And I've been doing this for 40 years. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I developed all of a sudden a cardio event, exercise-induced arrhythmia. And I immediately, where my heart rate would simply take off to 190, 200 in the middle of exercising. And went to my cardiologist. He sent me to an electrocardiologist. And for about a 4-year period, I was worked up, including up my groin, wearing an interior heart monitor, meaning it was implanted in my chest, and nobody could find the cause of this. And my cardiologist, who is a gentleman by the name of Scott Robertson, and Scott actually developed a stress echogram when he was at Harvard, and he's in his mid-70s. And one day I was visiting with him saying, what are we going to do about this? And he said, you know, I want to submit to you that you are a classic type A, really, really uptight guy, obsessive compulsive, etc. And this may have nothing to do with you physically. It seems almost to be induced by stress as well as exercise. And you need to get into something. And so I said, like what? And he said, how about yoga? And I said, well, I'm not all that flexible, but if that's what you think. So probably 5 years ago, I started doing a yoga class, a general yoga class at the JCC 3 times a week, and found it phenomenal. It was a segue into leading me into meditation, and that led me to a mindfulness center in Scottsdale about 2.5 years ago. And it's been a life-changing series of events to reframe my attitude towards things and towards everything and towards life and towards everyday events. And the real definition of mindfulness, it's an awareness that arises from paying attention purposefully to the present moment that you're in and non-judgmentally, which is a really key issue for those of us who carry a lot of guilt and you know, thoughts of if I only could, I would, if I could only do it again. And the whole concept is to look at things from what you were experiencing literally at the moment without rehashing or ruminating about the past or worrying or imagining about the future. And it is an exercise that is a learned event. And by the way, mindfulness has been around. It's a Buddhist and Hindu concept that goes back thousands of years, but it became popularized in the late 70s by a professor of medicine at the University of Massachusetts by the name of John Kabat-Zinn. And he began studying this and became a proponent of it. And those of us that are old enough to go back into the 60s and go back to our meditation days in that time, they're closely related. Mindfulness and meditation are very, very closely part of a healing process and dealing with life on a day-to-day basis. And if I were to describe the difference, mindfulness is really the awareness of something, where meditation is the awareness of nothing. And there's a huge component difference between those two things. So I asked the rabbi to send out a piece that had just come last week from my mindfulness center. And if I may, because it's so relevant to where we are right now, if I may take a moment, Rabbi, and read this out loud. As another week of the world sitting in pause goes by, we just wanted to reach out and send some love your way. We're in the middle of experiencing unprecedented times, and it's crucial for the health of our bodies and the planet at large that we allow ourselves the time and space to feel all the feelings that come and go these days continue. Mindfulness is so incredibly powerful for this reason. When we're able to fully immerse ourselves in the present moment, we allow what there is to simply be there without judgment or trying to make it go away. If we're sad, we feel sadness. If we're mad, we feel anger. If we're thankful, we feel gratitude. If we're scared, we feel fear. If we're content, we feel love. It's so important to remember that all feelings right now are showing themselves to us for the sole purpose of needing to be felt. So when you feel anger, allow it to come and then go. When you feel sadness, allow it to come and then go. And a famous Buddhist priest actually said, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Please continue to take good care of yourselves, stay connected to your breath, take part in practices that feel good to you, yoga, meditation, nature walks, gardening, and more. Do what resonates well in your body and mind complex to give yourself the gift of peace as we go through this time. And I know this resonated with me when I got it and received it and read it, because, you know, if there was ever a time that we need to let go of worry or let go of absolutely obsessing about negative thoughts or worrying about what's next with this whole thing, it is a real way to come back to the present moment. You know, the sharing right now of 16 people experiencing something together, sharing what we're going through, sharing our thoughts, our fears, our joys, our humor, our whatever it is that we're feeling, gravitating towards it and dealing with it. And that's the wonderful thing. And by the way, this, if any of you are interested in getting into this, I will tell you that mindfulness training for me didn't really resonate for the first 3 or 4 months, meaning I couldn't block all the thoughts coming through my mind. I mean, there's a theory that you just let it come in, recognize that it's there, and continue through and out the other side of your head. And you make a whiteboard or a blackboard in your mind that is a blank slate, and you leave it in that fashion. And again, this is a learned process, and it's one that takes time, it takes energy, it takes attention, it takes intention, and it takes attitude. But it's incredibly cathartic in so many ways, and it really has been life-changing for me. Just some other random thoughts. You always need to be aware of your physical and mental state. And a part of this chapter, Rabbi, the second part, she talks about this whole situation of somebody saying something to her that she felt was spiteful and et cetera. And then she took the time to recognize where it came from and to really be aware. We're always in one of 3 different categories when we sense something, either flight or fight or freeze, whenever we're threatened by something. And to be able to deal with what we're feeling right now and therefore disarm it with positive thoughts and with positive reinforcement that only we can do for ourselves is a phenomenal aid in dealing with stress at any time, let alone the time that we're in right now. So that's kind of the essence of it, and I hope that's helpful.
Thanks so much, Joel. So I hope you'll be open to questions here in just a moment. In Musar, we talk about opening up the space between the match and the flame. So, you know, I'm hearing some of that kind of internal process in what you're describing in your mindfulness practice, is not just to react viscerally, but to take a step back, to take that breath, to kind of focus within and identify and understand what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, where those feelings are coming from before we just react.
That's right.
I'd love to hear your perspective, because I think you and I share a personality trait of being kind of, you know, in very intense planners, if not worrying about the future, certainly focusing on the future. And I will say that that's a frustration for me right now. So one of the things I did this past week was I planned out the schedule for my Torah study class for next year and for my 2 Musar classes for next year, looking at dates and topics. And, you know, that was a way for me to have some sense of control in a situation where I have so little control. But to Marie's point earlier about, what the conversation is a little bit more globally, I could tell you that rabbis all over the country are thinking very, very seriously now about what's going to happen for high holidays. Are we going to be able to physically get together in our sanctuaries for the high holidays? And if not, what is that going to look like? And the not knowing, the not being able to grasp a hold and plan is, it's frustrating for me. So I'm just wondering how you would respond to that, because I sense that
Right.
you come from the same place.
No question about it. And I think you're right. For me, creating some structure, some repetitive behavior, for me and for a lot of people practicing mindfulness and meditation, breathing is a huge component. And I know the rabbi in our group has talked about this over the last 2 years. And the repetitiveness of breathing, let alone the physiological effect of deep breathing and what it does for you, but even the repetitiveness of structuring breathing, of breathing in to an in count of 6, holding your breath for 7 seconds or a count of 7, and then exhaling to a count of 8. It has been shown, Dr. Molt, by the way, over and over again, the effect that just even a couple minutes of that kind of breathing has on the respiratory system, has on lowering blood pressure, lowering pulse rates, etc., just by freeing your mind from worrying and stress, and you're concentrating literally on nothing but breathing. You are really concentrating on breathing in, holding, and then breathing out. But the same with structure. Some people, it's walking. It's one step after another. Just that whole concept of taking steps.
Jeff, how are you, sweetheart?
Of taking steps allows you to have that freedom of dealing only with that right now, not ruminating about the past, not worrying about the future, and in some cases celebrating the present. And literally celebrating the fact that we're healthy, thank God, that we have lives, and we have the ability to make it through this, that we have the courage, that we have the wisdom, that we have the absolute knowledge to deal with what we have to deal with. And being a control freak and being a type A, and this is, again, is a practice that I need to bring into my life, not only on a daily basis, but sometimes it's many times a day, to bring me back to a center point of being able to deal with what we have to deal with.
Well, you're a really great role model for the fact that, as entrenched as our personality traits may be, that we still can take the responsibility and have the capability to continue to grow and to look within and to understand what our own individual spiritual curriculum is, and find ways to address that. And and when we look at wise aging from the 30,000 foot perspective, that a dedication to ongoing learning is certainly a huge part of wise aging. I wanted to share a book that I'm reading. I'm just about done with it. When we talk about non-judgment. So this is a book, the title is We See It So Differently. What a great title, by a gentleman named Leonard Felder, who's a psychologist. And the subtitle is Creative Ways for Jews to Make Peace When Family Members or Colleagues Disagree About Religion, Politics, and Other Issues. One of the things I heard you say, Joel, that I think is so important in this conversation is non-judgment. You mentioned Sylvia Boorstein in her couple of pages that she wrote here about mindfulness, stressing non-judgment. And I'm just about done with the book, and the chapters are set up so that it talks about perspectives on Israel, perspectives on religious practice, perspectives on LGBT inclusive issues. So looks at different issues, but the common thread that's the clear takeaway is listening, being committed to really hearing the other person's perspective, and being open to the other perspective, so that the conversation is not just two people asserting their rightness and asserting their points of view, but the ability to stop, to take a step back, and even if we completely disagree, to at least try to understand where the other person is coming from. So Leonard Felder is he's a great author. As I said, he's not a rabbi, he's a psychologist. So this book is called We See It So Differently.
The other side, excuse me, the other side of judgmental is also self-directed. It's not just directed at other people in our lives or relatives, et cetera, and accepting that we may, as you just spoke, differ in our opinions. But part of, the self-judgmental part is critically important to me, because I am my own worst critic, and I've been that way all my life, that no matter what I do isn't good enough, and no matter what I accomplish isn't great enough, et cetera. And so to give yourself a break, to look at yourself without judgment, is again a really, really interesting road to go down, to work on self-acceptance, and we are who we are, and let's deal with that. And some of it may change and some of it won't change, but that doesn't make me less lovable, likable, acceptable than anybody else.
So it's finding that balance between arrogance and self-esteem.
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I'd like to share a resource and kind of a plug too. My cousin he has a website, he's written a book, he's an author, he has podcasts and YouTube videos on mindfulness, and I'll share it online. It's japlosker.com.
Great.
So I'll go ahead and.
Thank you. I thought, Debbie, that you were going to chime in as a pretty serious Musar student also. And Debbie is now in a VOD with me called Chabura. And we spent an entire month talking about worry and about judgment. And, the beautiful thing about Musar study is you're never done. So
yeah, exactly.
We talked about worry and letting go of worry, and probably be good to reread those materials right about now.
Rabbi, can you hear me now?
Yes! Hooray! Hooray! What did you do different?
Well, I was double booked. I was attending my painting class at PVCC at the same time. So I apologize. I was trying to do both, and it maybe interrupted the sound at this point in time. But
got it.
Just a couple quickies. Joel got us into breathing a couple months ago. And when Diane does go through some very periods of challenge and stress, we practice the in and out breathing, 4 in and 5 out. And it really does help lower the stress level and the anxiety that comes on when Diane is experiencing these challenges. So thank you, Joel, for getting us started earlier in the process.
It's great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We appreciate the testimonial.
Yes.
And you want to just give us a quick update about how you and Diane are doing?
You really don't want to know, but I'll give you 15 seconds. It's been a very, very challenging week. She had almost 2 liters of fluid removed from her left lung, which had collapsed because of the amount of fluid. So they're still going to do another drain on come Monday. So it was that, and she's got some swelling going on in her ankles at this point in time. Very tired, very exhausted. She fell last night because she was sleeping in the living room chair. 3 hours it took her to shimmy over to my bedroom and tell me that she was on the floor.
Oh, Frank.
So from 12 to 3, she was laying on the floor, and obviously I couldn't hear her. And she finally shimmied over, and I got her up into the chair, and she's sleeping now. So it's been a tough week.
It
Very,
sure sounds like it.
Yeah. She wanted to be here, but she'll see the recording.
Sure. So this fluid removal, that's an outpatient thing that they do?
Yes, Dr. Finberg was so gracious to get his office to basically open up to have this procedure done at his office versus going to the ER.
Oh, God bless him.
That was the recommendation, was to go get it at the ER from the doctor that we had originally was supposed to get some markings done for radiation. He said, there's something going on with her lung. We can't do the marking for the radiation. When they did the x-ray, they saw all the fluid build up.
My goodness.
So he wanted to send us to the ER, and I said, let's call Dr. Finberg, see what he can do. And as usual, Dr. Finberg came through and has been extremely, extremely supportive of us and responsive. And they were able to get this procedure done in his office.
That's great. Yeah, he's been a real hero. We have a member whose son is diagnosed with COVID-19, and he immediately took him on a patient and took over management of his care.
Yeah, and I just got a phone call as we were talking that the nursing home my sister is in, one of the staff has been now tested positive. So they're watching all the, I think there's like 36 residents in the nursing home right now, taking temperature twice a day. And as you have all heard, the nursing homes have been prime targets for the virus, and not too good results. So got our hopes and fingers crossed at this point.
All right, Frank. Well, we wish you a very quiet and restful weekend, a Shabbat Shalom. And I'm going to say a little Misha Berach for Diane. And it's hard to sing in unison on Zoom, but you can all join me in your hearts.
Yes, thank you.
Misha Berach Avotim Makor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the one before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We'll give her a real gentle little hug and kiss for us. Is there anything that would lift your guys' spirits? Do you need like a bottle of bourbon or, some flowers or candy? We would.
No, just staying in touch, and we'll see hopefully all of you at the Nosh tonight, and your spirits get lifted up when we watch the services from the temple. So those are things that we look forward and help at this point in time. Thank you, Rabbi.
Well, if there's anything that you need that we could just drop off by your door, it would be our honor to support you in that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. So going back to mindfulness and meditation, any questions from Joel or comments? Or Joel, I mean.
We're going to do a mindfulness exercise before we finish, is what I'd like to know.
Uh-huh. So we'll spend a couple of minutes. Yeah, we can wrap up with some breathing in a few minutes. Yes.
I have a question. What's the best thing to do just for anxiety? I know the breathing would be a good one.
Yeah, I think breathing is the best. I think that for me, and I'd like to describe myself, I don't know if this is actually a medical condition, but I have a busy mind syndrome that, I can literally, if I allow myself, I can lay in bed at night and probably keep myself up most of the night with my mind going in a million different directions, which is very anxiety inducing, obviously. And so quieting the mind and concentrating on something maybe as mundane as what you're feeling right now. You're feeling anxious, okay? So what does that mean? How does that feel? What can I do to acknowledge what it is that's making me feel this way? Accepting it or changing the components of it in a way that will be less anxiety inducing, and dealing with why is it that it's happening? Is it really about something that's presently going on? Or is it really about something that you're afraid about in the future? Or in many cases, something in the past that you're still dealing with and still rehashing in your own mind. And to lessen anxiety is really, paramount to dealing with one thought at a time, with whatever that is. And for me, again, breathing is a wonderful way to do that. Even if it's just counting those breaths in and holding and out, it requires your mind to do something other than simply worrying needlessly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Years ago, I had gone to a doctor because I was having a lot of trouble with mood swings. And he had taught me self-hypnosis. Have you ever done that, Joel?
No, my daughter, that's interesting. Our daughter is a mental health therapist in Portland. She is a huge, huge advocate of self-hypnosis.
Well, I find that terrific when I can't sleep, to clear my mind. Also, speaking of meditation, I'll sit on the couch. I'll sit on the couch and close my eyes and do the same thing. And I find it to be very, very relaxing. I could just feel the stress leaving my body. You start with 100. Well, first of all, you find a spot and you look at that spot and you blink at it 3 times and then close your eyes and start with 100 and really concentrate on the number. If you find you haven't concentrated on the number, go back to that number and do it again until you really have concentrated on that number. Go all the way back to 1. At 1, just close your eyes for a couple seconds and then very quickly go 1, 2, 3 and open your eyes. And it takes about 3 minutes to do it. If you're trying to do it to go to sleep, don't count the 1, 2, 3. Just continue to try to relax and go into a sleep mode where you've totally emptied your mind and hoping that you will fall asleep very shortly. I've done it for many years and I find it to be really great.
Thanks for sharing that, Carol. Yeah, that's
practicing mindfulness, Carol.
I'm sorry, Joel?
You really are practicing mindfulness. I mean, you're occupying your mind with something other than what it is that is creating the issue for you.
I remember one time hearing Lisa Goldstein from the Institute for Jewish Spirituality talking about meditation and the challenge of that busy mind. And she described her meditation mantra as, "It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay, sweetheart." That like breathing. Okay, my mind's distracted, and she would just come back to that that comforting reassurance. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay, sweetheart. You know, we understand this is what the mind does. So again, practicing, but without judgment. It's okay, sweetheart. That's what the mind does. And we just come back to where we were.
Rabbi, I wrote down on the chat what I do.
Tell us about it, Myra.
I beg your pardon?
Please tell us about it.
Okay. I got this from Matt Taylor, who's a physical therapist who practices yoga therapy. And he suggested we say, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, and may I be at ease. Over and over again. If the mind wanders, that's okay. You just drag it back in again and continue. And it actually helps me go to sleep sometimes. Yeah.
That's great. So Laura, you have now 3 really helpful suggestions. The breathing meditation, which we'll try together in a few moments, the self-hypnosis, and this mantra that Myra provided. So
Wonderful. Thank you all.
I just want to throw in one quick piece about the connection with ADD or ADHD and mindfulness. I personally have ADHD. People who know me know that. And I'm able to rein it in very successfully at work and be productive and be focused and take care of patients and be on top of things. But when I'm not working and on my days off, particularly during this time, if I don't find creative and practical ways that include rituals, routines, I'm all over the place. And I found what has helped me is to actually create 15 to 30-minute blocks of time and to stick to that. 15 minutes on Facebook, and that 15 minutes is up, done. Then it's the next 15 minutes. Exercise, do emails, clean the place, go for a walk, call friends. And I have about 7 or 8 different categories that I limit to 15 minutes at a time. And when I implement that, the day is so much better, more productive, and at the end of the day, I feel like $1 million. When I don't do that, I feel sort of all over the place, and I think to myself, that's what I need to do tomorrow again. So
I love that. That's just a great, simple strategy.
Yeah, it's just a strategy. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, asserting some control in a situation where we have so little control.
Everybody, I set my timer for 36 minutes. And when that goes off, if I'm in the middle of a sentence, I finish a sentence. But when that goes off, I get up from my computer and I go do something for another 36 minutes because I don't want my tuchus to spread too much.
So Myra has a longer attention span than Alan, and that's okay.
I'm like kidding around with everybody, but I really do have timers in various rooms that I set for 36 minutes, which is twice high, as we know.
That's great. I wanted to fast forward us. Any final thoughts about mindfulness and meditation? Thank you so much, Joel, for
thank you
helping us to think about such an important topic. That was super great. The next chapter in the book is on spiritual direction. I'm not sure how completely relevant that's going to be to our conversation, so I'd like to just sort of fast forward through it. The idea of spiritual direction is that rather than working with a therapist who's helping you fix a problem, to find a spiritual advisor who can help you to grow as an individual. So it's more growth oriented rather than problem solving. this is very much, again, part of what we do in Musar with a Chavruta partner. So the idea is to find someone who can hold you accountable to be your best self, to be your better self. So I would encourage you, especially sometimes couples can serve that role for each other. If you are on your own, if you don't have a Musar Chavruta, there might be some value to finding a friend with whom you can share that more of a spiritual friendship, deeper conversation, honest and loving feedback and nudging towards areas of potential growth. So that's a little about the chapter on spiritual direction. So I'd like to turn to page 18 with journaling. Journaling is also a fundamental Musar practice. So we have a couple of Musar students who are here with us right now who are already committed to journaling on a regular basis. I'd like to challenge the rest of the group that in the next week, find yourself a journal and create a routine where once a day you sit down for, doesn't have to be more than a 10 or 15 minute block. Dr. Moak, you can add that to your list of things to do. Journal.
Like myself, who don't like rituals, who don't like routines, certainly don't like journaling. So this is good. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone and do this, and who knows, I might actually like it. But
well, I highly, highly recommend it. It's a great way to process things that occur to us. Many people journal at the end of the day as kind of a winding down practice, to do a review of the day. In Musar, what happens is we're focusing on a particular midah, particular character trait. Right now in Debbie's Chabura class, we're looking at stubbornness. So the guidance is every day to reflect on ways that you were stubborn, ways that you overcame your stubbornness. If you experienced or witnessed others being stubborn, to write about that. But I think for this group, our challenge might be within the next week to find a journal and every day write about if you're feeling anxious and what you are positively doing to quell and address that anxiety. So that's a suggestion of a writing prompt. If that doesn't work for you, whatever does work for you. But just to get in that habit of sitting down at the end of the day, reflecting on the day, write it down, and we'll pick up next week with this chapter on journaling.
Rabbi?
So, yes.
Can I make one suggestion? If I found that if there are times when I can't write a sentence form or a paragraph, just listing the words, whether it's anxiety or stubborn or scared or whatever. Just a list of words.
Love that. Thank you. And Alan Moranis also says that even if you can't think of anything to write down the date and write nothing to report, just so you don't lose that habit of the journal. And that, more often than not, that will lead to some reflection. But that's a great idea, Debbie, just to write the word. That's kind of like what Joel was saying before, of naming the feeling. Just give it a name. Put words to the sensation.
What do we do with the journaling then? What comes of it?
What comes from it is processing your own feelings. And it's absolutely not goal-oriented, Myra. It's the end unto itself. You don't even have to go back and ever read it again.
Can you do it on the computer?
You can do it. Who asked that question?
Jane.
Jane, you can do it on the computer. And when I first started doing Musar, I did keep a journal on the computer because I'm so accustomed to writing on the computer that I just don't write more than 2 or 3 sentences not on the computer. So better to do it on the computer than not at all. But there is something associated with journaling as a spiritual practice that recommends doing it by hand in a dedicated journal. So if you're not going to do it, if you don't do it on the computer, better to use the computer. If you possibly can do it in a dedicated journal, that might be better. And we'll, yeah, I think she does talk about it in the chapter. So you'll look at that. You can get a little encouragement and perspective. Oh, so yeah, on the top of page 19, she addresses why write by hand. And I'll just read you this paragraph to answer Jane's question. In my experience, it connects us much more deeply to the heart, to the authentic, to the unexpected. Computers are great because they let us go faster, faster. Journaling, though, is all about slower, slower. If you try to write by hand and it doesn't work for you, go with whatever works. Make friends with your laptop and give it a name as your new treasured companion. So I think she puts that in a very beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just throw something out for discussion, and we'll end per Marie's suggestion with a couple of focused breaths. Typically, throughout the years, we've had 2 wise aging groups, a Sunday morning group, a Thursday morning group, and they have each met once a month. Since we're in this brave new world, we've combined those 2 groups into one, expanded our base of who we're including, and stepped up to meeting weekly rather than monthly because we're all lonely to see each other's faces. So I just wanted to take a moment and solicit private feedback. If you want to send me an email, is this working? Is it not working? Is it too much? I'm interested in your feedback and your thoughts. So drop me a note, rabbikopel@templehigh.com. And let me just throw out one final, this is, where's Lori? One final just meditation technique that I really like, that I find very calming, Lori, is chanting the word shalom. So what I'll do is I'll chant the word shalom 16 times. And the way I learned to do this is I imagine a square. So this is how I keep track of the counting without having to actually count, and see the word shalom in each of the 4 corners. And then when I finish 4, just kind of move that off the screen and do another 4. So I'll just show you what that looks like one time. Shalom. 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 So you do that 16 times. I think you might feel a little more at peace.
That sounds great. Thank you. Before we get into the breathing, I wanted to get Carol Newman's phone number.
The phone number is 480-203-5110.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so Joel, would you mind accounting for us? And let's just do maybe 3 rounds
So
to give people the idea.
I want everybody to just get very, very comfortable. And I want you to close your eyes. And let us try to do this to a 4, 5, and 6, where the exhale is the longest period of time. When you breathe in, I want you to utilize your belly as well, meaning you're taking a deep breath, your belly is expanding in that count to 4. You're then going to hold your breath for 5 seconds and then exhale to a count of 6. And if we do that 3 times in a row, get comfortable, close your eyes, and begin. hopefully everybody's achieved a little bit of calmness right now. It's remarkable if you really spend your time and concentrate.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. I'll see
Shalom.
some of you at the virtual Nash. Some of you will see me on the live stream Sunday morning, Torah study, and
Send our love to
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'll send you the recording of this when it's done.